I spent 1 week making a game about managing 4 survivors who are attempting to repair their vehicle while defending against an onslaught of zombies. The Godot Wild Jam had their 65th monthly game jam this January that took place between the 12th and the 21st and had over 150 entries. I had a late start and began the jam on Monday the 15th and spent the entire week focused on completing my submission through the forest. The theme was Overload, and the wildcards were The Good Ending, Unspoken Stories, and Choose Your Fighter. As always, the wildcards are optional for the game jam, but I really enjoy the added constraint and creativity that comes from trying to include them in my projects. When I first got started on this project, I was thinking of something along the lines of a bullet hell, roguelite, shoot 'em up type of game. But as I started piecing the ideas together and tinkering with the prototype, it just kept changing on me. Through the Forest ended up being a mix between zombie survival, tower defense, and sim management. I started playing with concepts like being able to set up a character in a position to defend against the waves of zombies, which is when I thought I'd be making some sort of tower defense. Then, as I started expanding on the idea, I thought it'd be fun if you had to position and reposition each character to give you, as the player, more of a sense of feeling overloaded within your role. I really enjoyed the feeling of commanding the actions of the characters and decided to create more of a needs and satisfies system that would allow me to expand on the overload theme a bit more. Not only are you now commanding where they go, but also ensuring that the needs to follow a command are also met. Supplies are stocked, I have ammo supplies, and so on. This pivot in design moved us more into the sim management category and ended up closing the game loop a bit better. And I felt like you were always doing something and moving things in a forward direction. You've got to go fetch supplies to repair the truck, but you also need ammo to defend the position, but you also need to heal your runner before he can safely go out and fetch more supplies. All of these ideas started working really well together. One of my favorite things about the game jam process is how it puts constraints on both time and ideas. These arbitrary constraints can seem weird at first, but they really do help you narrow down your focus and strip down problems to their essentials. They also help you prioritize the task that needs to be worked on. I've had many game jams, including this one, where I'd spent more time on a feature or a piece of art that was a complete throwaway, or it just didn't make the final cut. I'm still learning how to make the best use of my time, but the process of a game jam has really helped me refine those skills and is always teaching me something new as a takeaway. If you haven't taken part in a game jam, they happen all the time, almost on a daily basis at this point. If you just pop over to the itch.io jams page, you'll see a calendar full of potential jams for you to consider joining. These vary in themes and constraints, and some may be more interesting to you. Take a look and see if you're interested in trying one for yourself. I personally have enjoyed the process of doing the Godot Wild Jams as they're on a predictable monthly cadence, and they follow the same duration each month. The use of the wild cards in addition to the main theme always makes for a fun and interesting outcome. While I was working on this project, I would hit these lull periods where I just didn't feel motivated, or I was just spinning my wheels, thinking through a problem, and I decided during those periods to change my focus towards the pixel art and focus more on game feel. By making that mental shift away from the features, bugs, coding, I was able to get myself into a creative flow state that started with art, but would always end in a massive amounts of coding, refactoring, and feature work just getting done. I would make most of my progress during these flow states. Every time I did this, I felt even more excited about the direction of the project. Even though I didn't always know what I'd be working on or what I was working towards, I was having a good time. My excitement for this project even bled over to my kids. My son decided to jump on the bandwagon and make some background music for the game. Having been able to submit for a few game jams at this point, I usually have the same big takeaway: scope creep. This one is a big issue for developers alike. Software, games, I feel like we all tend to struggle in this area, and if you try and put everything into your game, especially a jam, that always seems like a good idea, you'll likely run out of time long before you realize it. By keeping the scope of your game small, you can ensure that you really get the core of your concept down. I really wanted Through the Forest to include an introduction tutorial that ramped up as you taught yourself the game mechanics, a score system that tracked all the stats like how many supplies you retrieved, how many zombies you killed, how much healing you performed, and repairs that you did. Also wanted a more engaging emotion/dialogue system that told more of a story as your characters moved from action to action. I wanted more than just one single zone to defend and work through. Also wanted my visual indicators for stock quantities and supplies that are being deposited after a run to be more obvious. I was hoping for better audio actions for further game polish, and as well as things like pause menu, settings menu, and just overall UI. None of these were necessarily bad ideas, and some of them would probably really help the users with my game jam, like knowing how to play the game before it ramps up to 100. By making the decisions to cut or not pursue some of these ideas, I was able to complete a small slice of my idea to prove out those core mechanics. Can a user play the game and get a full game loop and enjoy the experience? For this project, I would say yes. I may have enjoyed the experience of creating the game, but it's early to decide whether or not others would want to play a more polished and larger version of the same idea. Feel free to leave me some feedback on what you think of the gameplay. Even if it's not the game that everyone would want, there are several technical insights that I picked up that'll help me in future projects, and likely topics that I'll cover in later videos for others to be able to benefit from as well. Overall, I had a great time with the game jam, and I look forward to more jams in the future. I'll wait and see what the overall feedback on the project is before I start making any big changes, and if you want to check it out, you can head over to my itch.io page and play it directly in your browser. Links for that are in the description down below. I'll be working to deploy some bug fixes and some platform-specific downloads, and likely some deployment automation that'll speed up the delivery for anyone who wants to get quick updates whenever I make changes to the game. And if you do check out the game, please do let me know what your thoughts are. Links to our Discord server are down below. Is this a fun game that's worth pursuing, or does it just become another experiment collecting dust in my projects folder?